Just me, a place to be me, where you get to experience life. 'Cause life is a journey, not a guided tour. If you want the rainbow, you have to go through the rain. Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. All right. So today we have a special guest. Yes, Miss Ashley Griffin. She is a licensed clinical
Hello.
social worker, and she has been working with kids, adults, families, um, for over the past, what, 5 years?
Oh, since about 2016,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are going to talk with Miss Ashley, and we also have Miss Tracy here. Hey, Miss Tracy.
Oh, it's not what you want today. It's not what
Another hostess with the mostest with Just Me podcast. But we're going to continue our topic of conversation, which is the importance of talking about sex.
Mm,
And we had asked Miss Ashley here because she has been working in this field for a minute now, and she's had numerous amounts of experience with individuals, um, ages 16 to what, 36, 46. And
yeah.
yeah, some of those questions about sex, about relationships, about dating, um, sex during marriage, sex during dating,
Hmm.
sex, and you don't have to be dating anybody. So,
Right.
so we're gonna dive right in. So, Miss
Okay.
Tracy, go ahead.
okay. So our listeners would love to get some insight from you, Miss Ashley, even when it comes to talking about sex in relationships. Do some of your clients on your past experience, what are some icebreakers or how do they introduce the topic? Do you introduce it like on day one? As soon as you see a picture, as soon as he sends you that number, do you immediately respond like when we hooking up? Like what has been your experience here? In the work.
Right. Right. So I think after day one, like, the first thing is we are trying to plan our wedding bells. Like, oh my God, this is the man I want to marry. Like, we are just looking at everything, the physical and everything plus more, right? So I believe, like, in the beginning, I would say date a few couple of times just to see where you're at with that person and be comfortable with that person in order for y'all to start that conversation about sex. Now, depending on where you are, a couple of days may be three or four, maybe 10 plus more. But I think it's very important to have that conversation because it's going to increase the commitment and the communication as well as the emotional connection with each other. Um, so I would probably say within the first, I don't know where your dating is,
Yeah,
but like
it
probably like
depends.
within the first, yeah, like within the first month or so. Just again, based off your comfort level, where are you comfortable talking about sex? You want to go ahead and, especially if you see yourself like really invested in this person, like we're going to actually start dating versus moving along the talking stages. Um,
I like how
yeah.
you I like how you was reiterating like everybody is an individual choice because people
Hmm.
get into relationships and again depending on where your hormonal level could be,
Yeah.
how you view sex, you have some that sex is not an option in dating because I
Hmm.
am saving myself until marriage, and you have some that when I go out tonight I don't know who, but it's gonna be somebody,
Right.
It's going
middle.
down.
Right.
And so if you are comfortable in talking about it, on day one, but you
Hmm.
also have to know that that person that's receiving on the other end of that conversation, you don't know their comfort level. That might be a
That's
good
right.
gracious, like we only
Like,
met
yeah,
you
you need to slow down.
and you're already on this, and it might be a turn off. So,
Hmm.
and again, it's been a while since I've been dating, but when I was out there, in them streets. That's how I
In
would
them
call them,
streets.
y'all. That and again, dating, it could be a look, it could be a smell, it could
Yes.
be just because my hormone level was so high that it was, I won't say lottie dottie everybody, but I had a mission and I was gonna fulfill that mission that day. So
Hmm.
if and I was always comfortable about talking about sex, but you do
Mm-hmm.
have people that's not comfortable. So gauge your partner. Try
Yeah.
to don't come so strong, like give them little, ease them into the conversation. If you don't, especially if you first met them, might be a good helpful tool, because again,
Right.
if strong, it might be wrong and they'll be going the other way. So in your own experience, have you had people like come too strong, too soon, too fast?
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Scared me away.
Okay, and it usually scares you away. But every
Yes.
now and then it's like, my type of
Yes.
person. So
But
okay.
I
Yeah.
think that also kind of, so to even go with that, sometimes we try to give other people responsibility over our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
how we orgasm, what our expectations are, and we expect them to know. But I would even say that before even getting started with the conversation around sex, you have to know where you are in your life right now.
And I was getting ready to say that. You have to be comfortable with yourself first. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, no, you're okay. You're okay. So I know I work with some clients who are in the middle of going through a divorce or separation or a breakup. And so, with that being said, is sex something that is important to you and important enough to have a conversation about for somebody new? Is it just sex that you're looking for? Because it is okay to have sex with no strings attached, with no
Mm-hmm.
commitment, no relationship, nothing. It is okay to have that as long it is communicated. It is
Mm-hmm.
cuffing season.
It
It is
is. It's
it
getting
is
cold
getting
outside.
cold. Okay, I had to heat up my car this morning because it was frost. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That is disrespectful. At this point, I need a cuddle buddy. And if that is the intention, girl, okay, or guy, if that is the intention, that is okay. But I think that sometimes there's this taboo around talking about sex that we
Mm-hmm.
just kind of bypass it and we do all the things in order to lead up to sex, but we never talk about sex. We do
Yes.
the cuddling on the couch. We do the
Mm-hmm.
touching and feeling underneath the blanket. We watch the
Mm-hmm.
movie. We go out and we do cutie eyes with each other and we ready to have sex because the intimacy is there, the passion is there. But then when the
Mm-hmm.
act comes, it's like, oh, but I don't
Oh,
like that. And
yes.
but I'm not comfortable with that. And so the importance of having those conversations when you are in that intimacy stage and phase, and to say, hey, this is cuffing season. Um, I'm not in the space in time of my life for dating right now, but I am okay
Mm-hmm.
with kicking it. And
Yes.
for my generation, kicking it can mean something different than this generation. But as long as y'all are speaking the same generation language, you are on it. You're good.
You're good to go. Right.
And I do like to put out, by no means are we suggesting that those that are listening just go out and just have sex any kind of way with any
Mm-hmm.
kind of body, unprotected or whatever, and challenging your beliefs, because again, for some people sex is not an option. So just know who you are and how you value and view sex, especially, and do know that it changes. How you
Mm-hmm.
feel about it in your 20s does not look the same in your 40s, and definitely not in your 50s, and I don't know in your 80s. But it changes because you change, times change. But the conversation should always be there. Get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable about talking about it if you're not comfortable, and because it does have an effect in a relationship long term without talking about
Yeah. And I would say
Yeah.
also to piggyback off of that. So the next thing that I would recommend after recognizing where you are in your own life and what your intentions are with sex, but then recognizing also what your intentions are with that person.
it.
So
Mhm.
if
Right.
it is just to have sex and you are having sex with multiple people, maybe that's a conversation that you guys should have. So now you
Mm-hmm.
understand, okay, well, if this person thinks that we're only having sex with each other, and I am also having sex with somebody else, then maybe we need to go a step further and talk about what does that look like as far as protection? What does that look like as
Mm-hmm.
far as, okay, is this person on birth control? Should we be using condoms? So those are some of the things on top of the importance of talking about what I feel comfortable with as far as my intimacy and my what helps me orgasm is, in my mind, safety is also
Mm-hmm.
an important
Key
concept to that.
concept.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know that if I am having an intimate experience with this person, I'm not going to catch anything that
Right.
could not be cured or could be transferred to
Exactly.
somebody else if I'm having sex with more than one person.
One
And it
part.
is
Mm-hmm.
okay to have sex with more than one person as long as
Absolutely.
you are protecting yourself and doing what you feel
And
comfortable.
mm-hmm.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
Ashley, in your experience, how challenging has it been, like say dealing with children that come in that might be sexually active or doing sexual things that might not be appropriate for their age group? Um, do you find a challenge with having a discussion with the child, like one on one, or when you have to talk with the parent? How do you deal with again just dealing with the child and then having to talk to the parent like, okay, these are some tips you need to work with your child because they're 9 years old or they're 7 years old and they're doing um certain things that might not be appropriate for their age group.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most importantly is definitely having a conversation with your child to see like, hey, if anything is going on. But for me, working with my clients who may be younger, and I find that, maybe sex is not an appropriate age for them at this time. It is an uncomfortable conversation because you have those moments of feeling guilty and like, oh well, I shouldn't have done this, or you're trying to sneak and nobody knows what you're doing, but when you're confronted about it, then it's like, oh wow, this big surprise. So
You talking about as
definitely
far as
want
the
to have,
parents go?
as far as the children, because sometimes
Okay.
the children get a little guilty, but parents too.
Hmm.
So, because sometimes, parents are left out the loop. So we have to
Yes.
bring them in.
Yeah.
But having that conversation, it would look like, okay, so when we're going through the assessments, like, are you having sex? Well, yes or no. Okay. So, well, let's make sure that we're protecting ourselves. Are we using safety precautions? The conversation is a little bit uncomfortable, but just being, I guess, very realistic and, just being open and honest with that client or that person probably helps eases that level of comfortability. And then with the parent, having that conversation like, hey, mom, unfortunately, this is not the age that we want to be discussing this, but this is what's going on, right? So we'd rather be safe than sorry. So if we know that our child is being sexually active, well, let's go to the doctor. Let's get them checked out. Let's make sure that nothing is going on underneath anything. As well as let's continue those conversations about protecting ourselves. Do
Hmm.
we need to be on any contraceptives? At a certain age, I feel like below 12, 13 is pushing it, but um, hey, we in a different generation right now,
Right.
so
That's,
I
and again,
understand.
the
Right.
time is like a personal decision, and because we're talking about birth control, and we did a
Oh yeah.
previous episode about talking to teens about sex. So this would
Hmm.
be very helpful to help reinforce that episode as well. But and two in just talking about contraceptives and having that challenge with your
Hmm.
children because some would feel like it's a promotion. You're promoting that they can have it. No, I'm just trying to keep them safe.
Safe,
And I
right?
know for me that high school, it was not an option because it was like get them through high school, like because
Yes.
it could be too challenging and more than likely that's the greater influence of pressure for sex is that age. So for me and my girls, it was like we had a conversation, and this is what's gonna happen. Like you
Right.
might have had a choice: do you want the pill or the shot? But this is what's gonna happen.
You
You
got to
know,
weigh out your options.
to weigh it out. But it is
Yeah.
very important to have those conversations. So
Hmm.
again, when we come to the dating, that without talking about it, you're not gonna know. We walk in with expectations or assuming things, but we
Hmm.
definitely need to have those conversations be clear and be on
Right.
and be same playing field.
Right.
I
This
want
is
to
why
take
communication is important. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Miss
Yeah,
Ashley.
yeah, no, no, it's all good. I want to take a minute and think about memory lane for a second, and
Ooh.
why it can be challenging for our for parents to talk about sex. And if you have a teen or if you have a middle school student, before you even get to because eventually you're gonna have to talk to your kid about sex, okay? With social media, different things like that, with very sexualized media, you're gonna have to talk to your kids about sex at some point. So I want the parents and the adults, before you feel overwhelmed, think about what the conversation was from your guardian and your caregiver when you were growing up about sex. It does, regardless of whatever it was, because a lot of times when we think back about what our experience is or was, we kind of take those emotions and those thoughts and those feelings and we kind of project them onto our child. So if it was a very uncomfortable conversation, then you're probably going to have a very uncomfortable conversation with your child if you are not
Mm-hmm.
very intentional about reflecting on, okay, how was my experience when I talked or had that conversation, about sex, about dating with my caregiver. Was it tense? Was it stressful? Because odds are we live off of past experiences. And that is the most crippling thing that you can do when talking to your kids about sex, is trying to relive that moment that you had with your own caregivers, about that conversation. So take a minute, take a second to have a step back and really reflect on how your experience was, so that you know what to do and what intention that you want to have with your kids in this conversation moving forward.
Because even
Because
when you said that our kids, like, okay, like now it's prom or homecoming in high school,
Mm-hmm.
like, they go and it's like they go on a date. Our concern is, are they gonna have sex? So we're
mm-hmm,
talking about sex and dating. So if you're not talking about it before that first date, and then you got all this, but so the talking at even a start at a younger age, you're preparing them to have these conversations, so when they're out there, just in the outside of school, in the real dating world, or on their own and dating, from and one relationship doesn't work and another relationship doesn't work, that you already made them more comfortable about that, at least that topic, that sex topic, and more comfortable about themselves in that area. So when that's time for me to date, I can come and meet a Ashley and be like, I'm okay where I'm at. And hopefully, you okay talking about it. So when we come together, it's not like, I wonder if she like that, or can I do this? Is this gonna be too much? Can I tell her this is where I want?
Mm-hmm.
It
and
makes it easier.
that's more for the adult conversation. And for the middle school and for the high school students, like what Ashley was saying with her assessments, are you having, the question is, are you having sex, yes or no? And then sometimes I like to even break it down even further. What do you think sex is?
Sex is
Because
exactly. Mm-hmm.
because for the younger kids, and I'm saying younger, like middle school, high school, for these age groups, sex could be what they're hearing and seeing in videos, which could be the innuendos towards sex. But a lot of times, the music videos or social media doesn't show the act of sex, but they will indiscreetly or discreetly move toward it or
Mm-hmm.
reference it. And so that can be misleading for our kids, because they could be thinking, oh, well, fellatio is sex. It is a
Mm-hmm.
form of sex. But
Mm-hmm.
really asking the kids, asking your child, what is sex to you? Or what is dating to you? And then also encouraging them to understand what makes their body feel comfortable, and that concept of consent. Because
Mm-hmm.
there have been several young people who have come into my office and who have said, I participated in this act, but I didn't like it. And I feel like I was taken advantage of. And that's
Yes.
where we don't want our kids to be. We want our kids to understand that no means no, even if you are in mid act and that other
Mm-hmm.
person does not feel comfortable. No means that you stop. And also, no means that recognizing you have the ability and you have the comfort and you can have the self confidence to say, I don't want to do this
I don't want
anymore.
to do this. Right. Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't have those conversations with your kids, because like it or not, they're either going to do it in front of your face or behind your back. Okay. So having those conversations to help prepare them for the real world will be a lot better and help them as they become adults and then they're in a relationship or dating and then they have to have this conversation with their partner to say, oh, I really don't like it when this happens, or I feel better when you do this and kiss me on my neck, instead of feeling uncomfortable in a situation and not saying anything.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you think it's important or appropriate to have those conversations in the middle of the act of like, okay, I don't like when you do this, or should it be held before, during, or
Yeah.
after the conversation?
Tracy's
Heck
going to give you a
yeah,
different answer
you
than me.
better. And because I say that be, because of my just my own experience. And again, having sex in silence and then having sex with a voice is totally
Mm,
different because um it's certain things that you like, it's certain things that you don't like. It's certain
mm-hmm,
things that your partner might like and don't like. So if it's something that might be good for them but ain't be good for you, you might want to say something because you still got to get up and be able to move, walk, talk, and breathe because it might be
right,
hurtful or detrimental to your health. So open your
right,
mouth and say something, and your partner should be able to receive that, make those adjustments, and keep on going. But if you
mm-hmm,
sit there and then later on you upset, what's wrong with you? Yeah, well, why you ain't say that?
mm-hmm,
That is not your partner's fault. They don't read, trust and believe. You ain't reading the mind.
I
You
was
not
getting,
read your mind. I don't know that. And
yeah,
again, because it felt good today does not mean it's gonna feel good tomorrow. And
mm-hmm,
again, creatures of habit. Well, she was making a whole lot of noise, or he was making a whole lot of noise then. I'm going to do it again. But today it hurts. So
yeah,
say it. Other than that, they're going to keep on doing what they're doing
doing,
because they got
mm-hmm,
the response that was good yesterday. So, yes,
mm-hmm,
for sure, open your mouth before, after,
yeah,
during, and a
all right.
reminder next week.
I
and
love it.
and sometimes if you don't feel comfortable just because of who you are with your personality, if you don't feel comfortable with saying it during the act, that's okay. Have it before, during intimacy, and you don't have to say, well, I don't like it when you do this. So during the intimate act or during the stuff leading up to sex, tell your partner what you do like.
Mhm.
So instead
Right.
of saying, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, well, it becomes very accusatory and it becomes very, the mood can just be turned off. So instead of saying what you don't like, tell them what you do like and you enjoy. Yo, I
Mm-hmm,
like it when you kiss my neck. I love it when you rub your hands through your fingers through my hair. I love it
mm-hmm,
when you caress my arms. So say the things that you do like so that person can do more of that instead of the saying the things that you don't want to happen, and then the person just completely gets turned off. Just like when raising kids, say what you do want them to do. I really like it
right.
when you're nice to your sister, okay?
Right. And
Continue to do more of that. Yeah.
a little bit of redirection and navigation is perfectly okay. You're just
Mhm.
exploring and observing and being knowledgeable of the things that you don't like and the things that you do like. Like, it's okay to direct your partner during that time. Like, hey, do this a little bit more. It doesn't have to be something like Miss Tasha said, but like, yes, it helps us with our communication so that it works. Thank you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and if you're doing a whole lot of talking ahead of time, again, your partner, y'all,
It's not the
that
same.
the way
Yeah.
y'all talk is kind of understood, and they're not offended. And I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times you don't say anything because you don't know your partner. They're
Mm-hmm.
offended. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
How
And
you
so
say it.
like know the person that you with. Them one night stands, they serve their purpose. They ain't for nothing.
And that
You
was
don't
it.
follow no
Right.
rules. So
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you get. But if you're in a long term, committed relationship, be like, hey, if we want this to keep this area hot and popping, let's
Mm-hmm.
do this. But
Mm-hmm.
and even so, keeping it hot, sometimes we've been out there doing some things we ain't supposed to been doing. So if you're in that situation, you can't be asking your partner to do this or that because now you put them in a position thinking, oh, you only doing that because that's how that other person did it with you. So
Oh
you
yeah.
got to know your partner. And sometimes
Absolutely.
and I say that timing, you have to know when is the right time to have those conversations. You can't talk about this and y'all been arguing about infidelity. You can't have a set, you know what I'm saying? It's just certain things. So like the timing is important. Always having that open communication and not being afraid to talk. And if the person is not comfortable, then either you bring it down a little bit to their comfort level because it's something that we have to talk about, and don't come so strong, but you're still able to get the conversation in so everybody is feeling comfortable talking about it to whatever level that person, he or she, is at.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I will say that the topic of sex is not an easy conversation to have. Trust and believe it's not. If you are struggling with that conversation with you and a partner, or with you just individually, want some different pointers on to have a healthier conversation with your partners around sex, please reach out to Journey's Counseling Center. We can definitely support you with that. Just remember that sex does not start with the other person. It starts with you recognizing where you are in your life, what you desire, what you want, what your intentions are, and then talking about it in a positive light with your partner. So until next time, guys, take care of yourself so that we can all take care of each other during this cuffing season.
Thanks, Ashley.
Bye, guys.
Thank
Thank you so much for listening to Just Me Therapy podcast. If you are seeking further one-on-one diagnoses, interventions, and treatment plans, please consider scheduling an appointment with an individual counselor at Journey's Counseling Center, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Journeys can be reached at 336-294-1349. The mission of Just Me Therapy podcast is to use authentic conversations to uplift one's mind, body, and soul. The goal of Just Me Therapy is to offer affordable education and insight to individuals who experience financial barriers to accessing individualized behavioral health care services. With that being said, the information, including opinions, advice, and recommendations discussed in this podcast, are intended for individual, informational, and educational purposes only. Such information is not intended to substitute the recommendations of your own licensed therapist or healthcare professional. Although we are licensed behavioral health professionals, we are not your licensed behavioral health professional. As a result,